Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Swallowed Star 2 episode number 155 based on novel. So let's start. Under the watchful eyes of the spectators on the walls of Yulon City and the guards at the East City Gate, the black-haired man, Luo Feng, took only a few steps before entering the East City Gate, where he reunited with Di Qing, who had been waiting there. Luo Feng, you won. You won overwhelmingly. Di Qing was even more excited than Luo Feng. With countless cultivators as witnesses, you completely suppressed Elder Qianhe in direct combat. This battle will surely spread across the entire Yulon City within a day. Luo Feng smiled. If the battle had taken place in some remote wilderness, intelligence organizations might have needed to verify the authenticity of the fight. But this time, the clash occurred outside the East City Gate, with tens of thousands of spectators. There was no doubt about the battle's outcome. Luo Feng had essentially stepped on Elder Qianhe's reputation to make his name known throughout Yulon City. Luo Feng thought to himself, this was all part of his plan. If he had already reached an elder-level strength, yet still had to struggle to hunt for resources, that would be too pitiful. Moreover, the risks in elder hunting zones were unpredictable. Without breaking through to a higher level, the black-haired Luo Feng had no intention of continuing to hunt. Let's go, we need to handle the spoils of war. Piloting the Void Nether Eye ship, Luo Feng and Di Qing quickly left the East City Gate, heading straight for the Chaotic Origin Palace in the inner city. The sight of the Void Nether Eye ship taking off was also watched by tens of thousands of spectators. Awesome! That giant furry claw, it must be a powerful secret treasure. With just that treasure, he utterly crushed Elder Qianhe. In terms of realm accumulation, he's probably not on par with Elder Qianhe. Elder Qianhe's Eternal Night Nether Kite body was reportedly meant to be exchanged for a high-level Chaotic Origin lifeform bloodline. That's far more valuable than many secret treasures. Without the Eternal Night Nether Kite body, Elder Qianhe wouldn't even qualify. God Emperor Luo Feng used that secret treasure claw. This God Emperor Luo Feng fought barehanded, only using the secret treasure claw at the very end. Elder Qianhe wasn't using his full strength either. His most powerful strength lies in his clone in the Darkness Sacred World. Cultivators debated amongst themselves. Existence at the elder level in Yulon City was already considered the upper echelon, figures admired by many weaker cultivators. Their battles were events that cultivators would analyze for ages. Inside a cave dwelling in the inner city. This was where Kumo's master, Yu Yong, resided. Elder Qianhe fought God Emperor Luo Feng, and lost. Yu Yong, who lived in the inner city, hadn't made it in time to watch the battle at the East City Gate, so he had to purchase detailed combat footage from an intelligence organization. Since so many people had witnessed this battle, the information was being sold cheaply. That giant claw defeated Elder Qianhe in a single strike? Watching the full battle, Yu Yong felt a shiver run through him. If I had fought Luo Feng back then, I probably would have been torn apart in an instant. He had no clones, and in terms of foundation and accumulation, he was far inferior to Elder Qianhe. Elder Qianhe managed to escape from Luo Feng, but Yu Yong knew he wouldn't have had that ability. The path of cultivation was filled with peril. One wrong step, and you lose everything. Yu Yong had been extremely cautious since arriving in the Nine Rivers Holy Realm. He preferred a slower, steadier approach and wasn't willing to take excessive risks. But Kumo had joined the Guile workshop, engaging in long-term plundering, and with their support, had reached the middle stage God Emperor, almost catching up to his master, Yu Yong. Rushing leads to failure. Slowing down might be the only way to go further. Yu Yong felt it, his immense bloodline within was reaching a state of completion. His Chaotic Origin bloodline was weaker than Elder Qianhe's, but after countless years of refinement and potential exploration, he had finally reached the half-Chaotic Origin level. It had only been tens of epochs since he reached this stage, and he had spent all that time studying various secret methods to exert his bloodline talent. After reading the battle report between Luo Feng and Elder Qianhe, Yu Yong suddenly had the idea of heading to the Darkness Sacred World. Reaching the half-Chaotic Origin level, was that enough to jump out of the cage? The darkness sacred world held the greatest opportunities. Even dazzling geniuses like Luo Feng, it's still to jump out of the cage. As for those with weaker talent, if they don't fight for it, they won't even have a sliver of hope. Yu Yong's eyes burned with deep longing. Faced with a chance to jump out, he was willing to risk everything because his path to growth had been filled with too many regrets. With a deep breath, on the very day Luo Feng made his name in Yulon City, the half-chaotic origin bloodline cultivator Yu Yong silently piloted his flying boat out of Yulon City, preparing to use the teleportation array to head to the darkness sacred world. Yu Yong piloted his flying boat out of the inner city. Meanwhile, Luo Feng and Di Qing piloted the Void Nether Eye ship straight toward the chaotic origin palace. When Luo Feng and Di Qing arrived at the first floor of the chaotic origin palace, they found that the leaders of all 13 shops there had gathered, waiting to welcome Luo Feng. Greetings, God Emperor Luo Feng. We have all heard the news of God Emperor Luo Feng's victory over Elder Qianhe. These leaders were all extremely enthusiastic. If, in the past, they had treated Luo Feng as an equal, now they showed him noticeably more respect. They all work for powerful forces, so when facing an elder-level existence, they naturally show a degree of respect. Luo Feng looked at the 13 persons in charge before him and smiled, saying, "Everyone is quite well informed. The 13 forces that monopolize the trade of low-level chaotic origin life-form corpses in chaotic origin palace surely have foundations no weaker than the likes of Myriad Shadows Building or the Insect Nest, these predatory forces. When it comes to earning resources, theft and plundering can never compare to monopolizing the trade of chaotic origin life-form materials. God Emperor Luo Feng has returned from the hunt this time, surely you have some spoils of war." An old friend, Buyo, said with a smile. "There are some," Luo Feng nodded. "Take a look and tell me what price you can offer." As he spoke, Luo Feng displayed his spoils of war. A late-stage God Emperor Blood Demon Erlis, a Frost Soul Watcher, and several early-stage God Emperor prey. Even the deadly poison of the Blood Demon Erlis, Luo Feng took it all out for display. A late-stage God Emperor Blood Demon Erlis? What a treasure! The eyes of the persons in charge gleamed with heat. For cultivators who specialize in poisons, the corpse of a Blood Demon Erlis is practically a treasure in every part. The corpse of the Blood Demon Erlis, plus the merit, along with the deadly poison, I can offer 1.6 billion chaotic origin crystals. Old friend Buyo immediately quoted a very honest price. 1.65 billion chaotic origin crystals. A higher bid was placed immediately. "I am willing to offer 1.8 billion chaotic origin crystals," a female rock giant made an offer, startling the surrounding persons in charge, because at this price, she wouldn't just fail to make a profit, she would actually take a loss. The female rock giant smiled at Luo Feng. "My family's Elder Xingyi sends his regards to God Emperor Luo Feng." Elder Xingyi? Luo Feng understood, this was a gesture of goodwill. Elder Xingyi. An expert in life-healing arts, also an expert in all kinds of deadly poisons, one of the top 10 terrifying elders of Yulon City. In terms of strength and status, he was in existence on par with the Master of Guile Workshop. A late-stage God Emperor Blood Demon Erlis, when placed in the hands of an expert in poisons like Elder Xingyi, 1.8 billion chaotic origin crystals was not a loss. These elders, who ranked among the top 10, were all unfathomable and were extremely close to the 3 palace masters in power. Elder Xingyi cultivated 2 paths simultaneously, just like the Master of Guile Workshop. Each of them had reached the late-stage God Emperor level in both paths, and they had even developed powerful secret methods that allowed them to combine their strengths, making them nearly equal to the palace masters. Since the elders all had clones in the origin world, their relationships were primarily based on mutual interests, making them impossible to coerce. Even the 3 palace masters could not force the Master of Guile Workshop or Elder Xingyi to do anything. Elder Xingyi is quite courteous. Luo Feng thought to himself. "Please thank Elder Xingyi on my behalf," Luo Feng said with a smile. In the end, after the enthusiastic bidding of the 13 persons in charge, the final price of the spoils of war was much higher than expected. They sold for 3.95 billion chaotic origin crystals. After concluding his transaction with Di Qing, Luo Feng left Chaotic Origin Palace together with him. Who trades like this? They'd rather take a loss just to make the purchase? Di Qing couldn't believe it. The price of low-level Chaotic Origin life forms was well known and transparent. There shouldn't have been such a huge deviation, yet this time the final price exceeded expectations by tens of millions. Not only did they give up their profits, but they were even willing to take a loss. This is just a one-time thing, Luo Feng said. The elders behind them were showing goodwill toward me, so they were willing to forego making a profit. But in future hunts, it'll be regular trade. This is your share. Luo Feng handed a bag of Chaotic Origin crystals to Di Qing. Di Qing took a look, 39.5 million Chaotic Origin crystals. He couldn't help but feel emotional. Teaming up with a terrifyingly powerful expert, even just the share of the profits was incredibly high. As a middle-stage God-Emperor cultivator focused on comprehending the Tao, a normal hunt would require teaming up with several others at the same level just to stand a chance at killing a low-level Chaotic Origin life form of middle-stage God-Emperor strength. And in that process, there were always risks. A single failure, the loss of a clone, and even any treasures carried on one's person might be gone. Hunting was always a game of profits and losses. Accumulating 39.5 million Chaotic Origin crystals was no easy feat. This will also be our last time teaming up, Di Qing said, holding the bag of Chaotic Origin crystals with a smile. I've made a huge profit this time. For a long while, I won't have to worry about resources anymore. To break through to the middle stage God Emperor level, he had invested everything he had. This time, he finally managed to recover his losses. I won't be hunting again for a while. When I do, I'll take you along for the experience, Luo Feng said with a smile. If I don't have a fundamental breakthrough in my strength by then, I'll only hold you back. I won't go. Di Qing immediately refused. Ha ha, Luo Feng laughed. I'll go check out some other merchants first. All right. Di Qing nodded, then asked, by the way, you going to change your residence? With your strength, brother Luo Feng, staying in my place doesn't seem quite fitting anymore. That was a residence Di Qing had rented when he was still at the early stage God Emperor level, and it was a shared rental. Given Luo Feng's strength, it was indeed no longer suitable. Luo Feng nodded. I do plan to change my residence. Di Qing's residence had insufficient energy supply. It was no longer enough for Luo Feng's absorption needs. As his strength improved further, his energy requirements would only increase. Eventually, separation was inevitable. When I move, I'll leave a section of my new residence for you, Di Ming and Di Fu, Luo Feng said. Would you like to live together? Di Qing laughed. Of course. Who would refuse to live with an elder? Luo Feng nodded, then flew off. Di Qing looked his back as he left. The path of cultivation is just like this, there are meetings, and there are partings. Di Qing thought to himself. Yulon City, in a city core area, inside an ordinary cave dwelling. A slightly plump man with deep blue skin, possessing a pair of soft antennae and wearing glasses, was watching a battle video from an intelligence report with a smile. Qianhe, you actually lost to a newly promoted elder. The slightly plump man smiled as he looked at Elder Qianhe beside him. I admit my defeat wholeheartedly. Elder Qianhe laughed self-deprecatingly, then turned to look at the slightly plump man. Workshop Master, are you interested in competing against him? The slightly plump man smiled. He was the master of the Guile Workshop. There's nothing worth competing over. His foundation is rather weak, he's just relying on external aids. The master of Guile Workshop shook his head. He was still confident that he could suppress Luo Feng, even after seeing that final claw attack from Luo Feng. The primary reason Elder Qianhe was willing to join Guile Workshop was precisely because of its master. He cultivated two great Daos simultaneously and was even attempting to merge them into one. Even in the Darkness Sacred World, there are quite a few who cultivate 2 or 3 Daos at the same time. But those who can merge different Daos into one are extremely rare. Among the top 20 existences in Yulon City, in terms of potential, the Master of Guile Workshop ranked first. Elder Qianhe knew that his potential was limited, to the point where he was even forced to take the bloodline route. Naturally, he needed to cling to a powerful figure, and his choice was the Master of Guile Workshop. Qianhe. The Master of Guile Workshop smiled as he finished reviewing all the intelligence on Luo Feng and spoke. Prepare 1 billion chaotic origin crystals and have your subordinate send them to Luo Feng as an apology gift. An apology gift? Elder Qianhe couldn't help but say, we're both at the elder level. Why should I apologize to him? Besides, the one in Yulon City was just one of my clones. Why should I go out of my way to please him? Elders generally had clone techniques, so they naturally carried a certain pride. Admitting defeat outside the East City Gate was already humiliating enough for Elder Qianhe, now he had to give an apology gift too. Do as I say. The Master of Guile Workshop gave a direct order. Since Qianhe had chosen to follow him, he had to abide by his rules. If Elder Qianhe refused to listen, the Master of Guile Workshop would simply distance himself from him. Elder Qianhe hesitated for a moment but could only nod. All right, I'll arrange it immediately. Workshop Master, there's something I don't understand. Elder Qianhe looked at the Master of Guile Workshop. Look at the intelligence report. He has only been in Yulon City for a little over 1,000 epochs. The Master of Guile Workshop smiled and pointed at the detailed intelligence floating before him. At first, he was suspected to be at the early stage God Emperor, but in just 1,000 epochs, he was able to suppress you. Do you understand what kind of cultivation speed this is? Workshop Master, the intelligence report also states that he is suspected to be at the early stage God Emperor. Elder Qianhe refuted. When he first arrived in Yulon City, it was impossible to accurately assess his strength. A member of the insect nest once tried to steal from him but failed, unable to determine his true power. Later, when Luo Feng openly took action, he single-handedly killed one of our raiding squads. Only then could we truly confirm that his strength far surpassed an ordinary middle-stage God Emperor Dao cultivator. In my opinion, when he first arrived in Yulon City, his true strength should have been at the middle-stage God Emperor Dao cultivator. After obtaining Yulon City's resources, he finally broke through his bottleneck and reached the late-stage God Emperor. The Master of Guile Workshop lightly shook his head. I don't deal in speculation, only facts. The fact is, when Luo Feng first arrived in Yulon City, he was sharing a rental with Di Qing. In the city, he only purchased the cheapest materials, he was clearly very poor. The Master of Guile Workshop continued, yet, in just over 1,000 epochs, he became a late-stage God Emperor Dao cultivator. Think about it, how long did you and I take? How many billions of chaotic origin crystals did we spend to reach the late-stage God Emperor? How much had Elder Qianhe sacrificed to reach late-stage God Emperor? Even if he reaches the half-chaotic origin, so what? Elder Qianhe said. Our foundation lies in the darkness sacred world. Stop asking. You'll understand in the future. The Master of Guile Workshop said. Understood. I'll go make the arrangements for the apology gift now. Elder Qianhe stood up. The Master of Guile Workshop watched as Qianhe left. Suddenly, an intangible ripple appeared in midair before him, and a virtual projection emerged. It was a man radiating boundless heat. Palace Master Wei Yang. The Master of Guile Workshop spoke. Palace Master Wei Yang had a face like a sculpture, with deep, unfathomable eyes and an emotionless expression. He was an extremely domineering and powerful half-chaotic origin Dao cultivator. After countless years of honing himself in the darkness sacred world, he had established and clone in the Nine Rivers sacred world to secure a foothold. After arriving, he had even suppressed the city's founder, Palace Master Yuan Xiong, becoming the most powerful Palace Master in Yulon City. Among the 3 Palace Masters, he also gained the most resources and benefits. I heard that your Guile Workshop's Elder Qianhe lost to someone named Luo Feng. Palace Master Wei Yang looked at the Master of Guile Workshop, and for once, a rare smile appeared on his face. He was extremely proud, and there were very few individuals in the city whom he took seriously. The master of Guile Workshop was clearly one of them. This Luo Feng has extraordinary potential. Even if he goes to the darkness sacred world in the future, he might still leave and clone in Yulon City, said the master of Guile Workshop. Perhaps, in the future, he will be the one calling the shots in Yulon City. Oh. Palace Master Wei Yang's virtual projection smiled and said, "Do you really think so highly of him?" The master of Guile Workshop did not say more. Yulon City is jointly controlled by the 3 palace masters. If he is strong enough, at most, it will change from 3 palace masters to 4. Palace Master Wei Yang smiled. But right now, his strength is still far from enough. It seems the palace master has thought this through clearly. The master of Guile Workshop nodded. Palace Master Wei Yang said, "With your talent and strength, you should have caught up to me long ago. You have been cultivating 2 great Daos at the same time, yet you still haven't broken through. The next expedition is about to begin. Are you still not going to participate?" "No, I will not participate." The master of Guile Workshop smiled slightly. Palace Master Wei Yang nodded. He and the master of Guile Workshop were also close friends in the darkness sacred world. The master of Guile Workshop, as he pondered over establishing the Guile Workshop, was not inherently a benevolent person. His ghost realm Dao was filled with darkness and ferocity. "Luo Feng, he actually made my heart of the ghost realm feel fear?" The master of Guile Workshop muttered. While watching the battle footage, the heart of the ghost realm that had condensed within him trembled. It instinctively feared Luo Feng. In the darkness sacred world, there were indeed some who cultivated 2 paths simultaneously and even pushed both paths to the half-chaotic origin level. The master of Guile Workshop pondered, yet they still couldn't jump out of their cage. There is a legend in the darkness sacred world that cultivating 2 Daos alone is not enough. Only by merging 2 Daos into one does a qualitative transformation occur, making it possible to jump out of the cage. I have cultivated for so long, and I have only pushed my ghost realm Dao to the early stage God Emperor. The master of Guile Workshop lightly shook his head. He had chosen to cultivate both of his Daos to the late stage God Emperor before attempting to merge them. However, merging at this stage was too difficult. After endless years, his ghost realm Dao had only reached the early stage God Emperor. He had even slowed down his progress in his other 2 Daos, fearing that he might be heading in the wrong direction. The path of fusion offers a far broader future. Even at the early stage God Emperor, it already rivals the late stage God Emperor of an ordinary path. If the path of fusion reaches the half-chaotic origin level, it might truly be possible to jump out of the cage. The master of Guile Workshop certainly had ambitions and desires. As for Luo Feng, I need to observe him more carefully. The master of Guile Workshop did not want to become enemies with Luo Feng, but he also did not want to get too close to him. In the core area of Yulon City, newly rented cave dwelling stood. Judging by its size, it was only a few times larger than Di Qing's cave dwelling. "This is my newly rented cave dwelling." Di Qing, Di Ming, Di Fu, and the others observed the new dwelling. The energy supply here is incredibly vast. Di Qing could feel that the energy in the dwelling had even condensed into a mist-like state. It should be sufficient for a half-chaotic origin cultivator to fully absorb. Di Fu was also somewhat astonished. "I never expected that I would one day live in the core area of Yulon City." Di Ming couldn't help but sigh. The rental fees in the core area were exorbitantly high. "How much is the rent here?" Di Fu curiously asked. 5,000 chaotic origin crystals per epoch. Luo Feng said. Even he felt a bit of heartache. There was no choice, he had already chosen one of the smaller dwellings in the core area. 5,000 chaotic origin crystals per epoch? In just 10,000 epochs, merely living here would cost 50 million chaotic origin crystals? Both Di Ming and Di Fu were taken aback. Housing expenses like this were a continuous drain. Without sufficient strength, one wouldn't dare to rent such an expensive place. Luo Feng had no other choice. As his strength increased, his energy absorption rate also grew faster. Naturally, he needed to choose a better cave dwelling. This dwelling could at least ensure that even after the Tao of Life and Death reached the middle stage God Emperor, there would still be a sufficient energy supply. Luo Feng suddenly sensed someone knocking at the door. He had just moved in, and there was already someone knocking? I'll go take a look. Di Fu took the initiative to go to the courtyard gate. When he opened the door, he saw an elderly man standing outside. The old man's aura was restrained, but even the faint traces of energy he unconsciously emitted made Di Fu's heart tremble. Little friend Di Fu? The old man immediately recognized him and warmly said, I have come under the orders of my master to deliver an invitation to God Emperor Luo Feng. My master will personally visit tomorrow. Besides the 12 invitations, Luo Feng also received a gift of apology from Elder Qianhe, an entire 100 million chaotic origin crystals, which surprised Luo Feng. Elder Qianhe is an expert from the origin world. I pose no threat to him at all. Why would he send me an apology gift? Luo Feng looked at the bag in his hand. Inside this bag was exactly 100 million chaotic origin crystals. This video will end here.